Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. How is everybody? Actually, it's probably a live cast. If you are watching live, then it is. And if you are listening to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Spreaker, then it's a podcast too. Same thing. You can always go back to YouTube and get her. And now Rumble. We're on Rumble today to watch past episodes of the podcast. So I did post one already when we started the channel, just to kind of like learn how to do the Rumble thing. We had to learn how to set it up. We had to go through the paces. So I'm still not quite there yet, but a huge thank you to Wendy Bell and Brock and the Wendy Bell Army. You guys are amazing. I am so humbled, and I was really just blown away by how many of you followed there's a profile and there's a channel, both with the same name, Mary Walter Radio. But because I didn't know like you could do different names, whatever, it is what it is. But thank you so much. And so many of you put like really super nice comments. I'm learning how to respond to those. So there is a learning curve, but I am trying. So thank you so much for that. Thank you to EB, who does all of my graphics for me. He's a wonderful guy. And to his son, Zach, who is our absolute #1 fan. And I actually have to change my name from Mary Walter Radio back to the Queen, because that's what Zach calls me. So I had to change it back to the Queen for him. All right, let's go to our guest. We are joined by Steve Redden with Now Tax USA, nowtaxusa.com. You can find him on X at We the Tea Party, right? That's We the Tea Party on X. Steve, welcome, and to the debut on Rumble. So thank you for joining me.
This is an honor, especially since we're going to change the world and change the tax system. So Rumble is the flagship podcast for nowtaxusa.com. I'll take it as an honor.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just checking here. So it's working. The Rumble comments are coming over, so that's fantastic. So we did that right. So just bear with me, everybody. I'm trying to do this properly. So it looks like all of those comments are coming over. So Freebird was #1 in for the show today. Thank you. And Hermit Sal was the first one in over on YouTube. Freebird says, you were awesome filling in for Wendy Bell last week. I'm glad you were on Rumble. Thank you. I'm so glad that you guys. So Steve, I filled in for Wendy Bell all last week on her show, and she has an amazing following. I mean, it's incredible. And Brock, who's her producer and just all around great guy, said, you got to get on Rumble. You got to get on Rumble. And then all the comments that were coming up on Rumble were like, yeah, you got to come over. You got to come over. And Wendy and Brock yesterday told them that I had a channel and gave them, how to find the channel. And they were amazing. Like 500 followers, 300 followers. Like it was just crazy. So I'm so grateful. Scott's here. Yitzhak's here. He said that was before dinner cocktail music. So that's the free music I can use without getting dinged. Bill is here. Rebecca is here. Lots of the regulars. Scott, watching your back, is here. Alexis over on Rumble says, hey, Mary, I enjoyed your Rumble on Brock's request. Enjoyed you while Wendy was away. Thank you. D Carter 5, Wendy Bell Radio. I know a D Carter. I wonder if that's my D Carter. Yitzhak says, I sold Rumble, took a profit waiting for it to go back into the 7s. Well, maybe now that we're on here, it will. Susan's here. Woot Mango Mush is here from PHT in Philly. Porchview Farm is here. Squeaky's here. He voted. It is primary day here in New Jersey. Freebird says, please Rumble for Mary's show and her guests. So what that means, from what I understand, is the comments you leave on Rumble, we get up to a certain number, and then the larger the number, it's like a big deal. So you gotta post up the number of people who comment on Rumble. So you just comment. You just comment away, as far as I can tell. So again, I'm new. What's the financial? I don't know if you can answer this, Steve. You're really with a tax guy. So if you can't, that's fine. What's the financial opine on Rumble? I bought Bitcoin for a reserve. I don't know if you know anything about Bitcoin or anything like that. I don't know if you do.
I was an investor and I divested because I I didn't make any money off of Rumble.
On Rumble.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about Bitcoin?
I'm a little on the fence on that one. I think it's free market as long as it doesn't impede on our federal system. Devalues our dollar. I'm all for it.
Okay.
I mean, it's
All
just
right.
like I think it's sort of like a credit card that is traded like stock.
Okay. Because I know they want to, I guess for a while there it wasn't taxed because it wasn't considered like money. And now you've got to declare on your taxes if you own any kind of Bitcoin, any kind of crypto, you have to declare that now because the government ain't letting any source of any kind of of income. They're not going to allow you to get a dime without getting their share of it. So it doesn't surprise me. Gregory says, why is there both Mary Walter Radio and Mary Walter Radio, one word, on Rumble? So you have to pick your username. So we picked Mary Walter Radio. Unbeknownst to us, you then pick a channel name. Like you can have different channels. So my profile is Mary Walter Radio with the spaces. And then you pick the channel, but the channel has to be all one word or vice versa. And we didn't know. And you can't change your username on Getter. So had on Rumble. So had I known, I would have made my profile Mary Walter. And the channel would have been Mary Walter Radio. But I didn't know that when I went in. So they're both the same name, and we're just going to have to live with that, children. Either way, it'll get you where you need to be. So that's that. Porchview Farm, happy birthday. It is my niece's birthday as well. Woot woot. Congratulations on your 21st birthday. You can have a drink. Nicholas is here. Thank you, Scott Freebird. So I think it's going to be a little because we have we're doing both now. We can get the comments from both. Might be a little hectic today on the show. And for that, I apologize to you, Steve. I'm just apologizing now because we're going to try to figure this out. Okay.
Just as long as they're good comments, we're okay.
So let's start out. Let's delve into the big, beautiful bill with you. Because there's so much to this bill that I think it's a lot of people just punch out. And all I know is I hear, Elon Musk, oh, it's a terrible, horrible bill. And you hear the usual suspects, Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, who think that this is terrible, horrible. It's not cutting enough. And then you hear David Asman, to me, made a really great comment, played it on the Wendy Bell show last week on both Wednesday and Thursday. And he said that it had to do with the GDP compared to the whatever it was, and it was 6% when Ronald Reagan took office. And when he left office, it was 3% because the tax cuts put more money into the economy and the economy grew, which is pretty much, from what I understand, what Trump wants to do. Now, I know you are for taxing nothing. Right. You don't want to tax anything. So I'm not quite sure how that works or if that's going to work. And I don't know how feasible it is. So go ahead and tell us what you guys advocate for.
Well, unfortunately at the same time, we have to go through with the Trump big, beautiful bill. The main reason is because of maintaining the tax cuts where we're at now, because if we rescinded the tax cuts back to pre-Trump, it would destroy our economy. So we're kind of like, we're stuck with that, that's kind of the good part. The bad part is it will continue to increase our debt, even though the offsets are supposedly supposed to be enough offsets that it makes up for lost tax revenue. But that's not true, and it's going to be proven out. And simply, it's proven out by one thing alone, is we have a $1 trillion interest payment. So with a $1 trillion interest payment, which is money that goes nowhere except for to the holders of the loan. So you always have that $1 trillion payment. So it means you're really getting nothing for your money as far as the citizens are concerned. And it doesn't really pay off the debt. And then they said they lowered the budget by 1.5 trillion, but that's over 10 years. That's only 150 billion a year. I know 150 billion doesn't sound like a lot, but in the scheme of $37 trillion in debt, 150 billion, as you can see, compared to the interest payment, doesn't even scratch the interest payment.
Right.
So that's the downside.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, then I was just going to say, fundamentally, I don't believe in omnibus bills because I think that is the root to our problem of why we're in this position in the first place, because of all the quid pro quo pork spending that goes into bills.
Right.
And I think that's why. So I think Trump should have just did one bill at a time. And I think easily he could have passed his tax cuts hands down without any issues. And that could have been done probably in his first 30 days. I don't think anyone was going to resist that one. But I think he got sucked into the swamp a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Well, so we have a rescission bill coming up, and for rescission bill, because they use words that no one else uses, and so people punch out because they don't understand omnibus. What's in the omnibus bill? You know, what's the difference? So people punch out, and in the rescission, supposedly this is where a lot of the Doge cuts are going to be. Now, some of the Doge cuts have already been made by certain bureaus, right? So the IRS, Social Security, deemed anyone over 120 years old to be deceased, and that was 12.4 million people, right? 12.4 million people who are 120 plus older, right? So they declared them dead, but I wish they would go a step further and find out who was cashing the checks. Where was the money going? And the people who are cashing those checks need to go to jail. Yeah, and I understand what they're doing right now is so big, and there's just so much to it that you can't they're just not going to do that at this point. They just want to cut the money and move on and start from there. But I think those people should have been punished for what they did there. It's theft, they're stealing, and we're letting them get away with it. So things like that have already been done that can be done on a bureau level, right? But what do you see in the rescission bill, though, that may help cut our spending? There's supposedly a lot of the Doge cuts.
I haven't seen a lot of the details on it. Like most of us, I don't think have seen a lot of details on it yet either. I think they said they are slated for $9 trillion in cuts out of the, maybe my number's wrong, because it has to be 9 trillion. Otherwise it wouldn't be worth doing. So whatever those cuts are, we're all for them. But again, I haven't seen any details on it in great detail where I can make an opinion on, but I'm all for cutting. But back to what you're saying, the unlawful side of it, the dilemma is white collar crime is the hardest crime to prosecute. And that's probably the bottleneck is why everyone's afraid of prosecuting white collar crime, because it just sucks up so much resources.
Well, all you have to do is find out the bank account to which the check is being sent and figure out whose name it's in and arrest them.
That's what I would do.
I mean, that doesn't seem to be that hard. I owed Uncle Sam $11 when I first got out of college. My father did my taxes. This is the last time my father did my taxes. And I wound up owing $11. My father called me in a panic because I got dinged by the IRS because I owed him $11. He's like, you have to write a check now. Write it for $15 because by the time they get it, it's going to be interest. And he went on and on. He goes, they will come to our home and steal the gold out of your grandmother's teeth, right? It's just like panic over $11. And these people are stealing thousands and thousands and thousands on the regular. And now the gravy train just got cut off, but we know where those checks are being deposited. So we know who was checking them. It's cashing. That seems to me to be super easy.
Well, actually, you actually brought a point up about the IRS. They're actually very late in collections overall. They're having a hard time doing collections. And that's one of the reasons the system, I think, needs to be changed.
We just got a tax bill from a notice from 2017 from the IRS. 2017. Now, luckily, we learned a long time ago to pay somebody to do our taxes, right? Because we have corporations and S corps and and it's their problem. They got to deal with it. It's their thing. This is why, though, I think your idea of getting rid of taxes and making it easy. Remember, Trump was saying the first term, you put it on a postcard, and you're going to get a postcard. You know exactly how much you owe, and that's it. It's going to be, your bill's going to be on the size of a postcard. That's it. Like I get, some tax bills in some states, it comes to you on a postcard, and it's like you owe $17.28. I was like, oh, okay, and that's it. But that's never going to happen because there's an entire industry of people who make a living preparing other people's taxes and lawyers to fight the IRS for those companies. So that's never going to happen.
Well, actually, that's where I think what is going to happen. If you read the tea leaves, because our debt is so large at 37 trillion, they're going to have to do something. And what they're going to have to do is figure out a way to raise revenue without relatively raising taxes. And what we're doing at Now Tax lately is we're proposing a parallel phase-in of doing a version of the Now Tax at 0.5% of all transactions and sales. And that would collect $1.5 trillion, which would pay the interest payment and start paying $500 billion a year off the debt. So that's what we're proposing now to get everything's rolling. Then what you'll see is hopefully the performance of the Now Tax, which is really actually called the broad-based sales tax. The performance would be so great. West Virginia is experiencing the same thing. They're dropping the income tax rate because the sales tax here is starting to outperform the income tax. And West Virginia is slowly starting to get rid of the income tax altogether. So I think that's
what's the sales tax rate in Virginia?
Well, I'm in West Virginia now, but it's 7% here in West Virginia.
Okay, because in New Jersey it's 7.5%, and we still have the highest property taxes in the country. We pay over $20,000, and we have income tax on top of it.
Right.
So when you live in a state like that, I don't know how they would have to cut so many programs. And it's New Jersey, so there's a lot of graft, a lot of theft, a lot of fraud, and I would assume a lot of bodies too. Well, so you put all that together.
Let's follow that point. If you take a small state like West Virginia, their most of the revenue now is collected through sales tax at 7%. Well, everyone politically complains that the sales tax does affect the poor more than anyone else. So if they use a version of our tax and broaden the base to more services, actually poor people, the sales tax would go down, in West Virginia alone would go down to like 4%. If they were to broaden their base, they could eliminate income tax. They'd have a sales tax rate of 4%. But of course, all the other services would be taxed equally. That's the broader base. These services, advertising agencies, stock trading. So when you broaden a base, it actually helps the poor people or people that don't have as much money. So again, that's the theory and the concept behind our tax system, is broaden the base to the point where the tax rate gets so low it's almost nominal to the citizen.
So now you and I butt heads over this all the time. My theory is that, yeah, it sounds great. Let's get rid of the income tax. This is fantastic. And it's going to be like, to me, it's going to be like the was it Social Security? The income tax, the original income tax was only going to be for the wealthy. It was only for the top 1%. It was only, and within a generation, we were all paying it. And that's what I see happening. It's going to be no income tax. It's going to be fantastic. And within a generation, we're all paying income tax and the added sales tax. We're going to be paying both.
Well, because of our debt, we're going to be forced to do that anyway. That's what I predict. We're going to be forced into a national sales tax because we have to manage our debt. Which is the good news is, again, if we see better performance, in other words, better tax collection, more efficient, someone genius goes, geez, if we raise it up to 2%, we could get rid of the income tax altogether. And hopefully, part of the concept is you would have a budget, fixed budgets, which should be $5 trillion, which you cannot go over the $5 trillion, which is another problem. I think back to the BBB, it really didn't go after. Why are we still at 7 trillion when we should be at 5 trillion? There's a real mystery there.
Well, and there's a mystery where a lot of this money goes. So which is part of DOGE in finding that out. So when do you think we're going to wind up with a national VAT on top of my state and local sales taxes and my state and local property taxes and my national income tax and my state income tax? When is this going to happen? Just out of curiosity, what do you think? How many years off are we from this?
We'll start getting serious about it next year. And again, what's going to drive it is the national debt is going to drive this.
I was waiting for you to say it's like 20 years down the road, we're going to be doing, because I'm like, then I can start to hedge my bets and go, I could probably be dead by then. So because I'm choosing now what to care about and what not to care about based on how far down the road it's going to be and whether there's a chance I could be dead. So if there is, then I put less thought and anxiety into that thing, because I'll be like, not going to be here. Not going to be my problem. So sorry, suckers, it's on you.
Yeah, but Mary, with your voice, because you're really, as we need to tell everyone, you're the #1 fill-in host in America.
Yeah, make no money doing it, but
Well,
yay.
but you have a voice out there, and believe it or not, if think about this in 1776, if everyone said what you just said, we would not have had the Declaration of Independence. So it's eventually there's a crossroads, and when we get to that crossroads, people are going to have to stand up, and they're going to have to say, okay, we got to fix it now. We don't, because we don't have a choice. 1776, they really put their lives on the line, because whether they did have a choice or didn't have a choice, they felt they did not have a choice any longer. So once we get to that crossroads, which I think is going to be on us a lot sooner than we think, because there's other effects of the national debt, like the devaluation of the dollar, us losing our status as the world currency. There's some things that could happen that could affect us. But on the other hand, the United States infrastructure is so powerful and so strong, we could probably limp like this for 100 years, and just because we're just such a wealthy nation. It's going to take a long time, and I don't think people realize when you drive.
So I could be dead.
Yes, probably.
Oh, this is good, man. Okay, we're back.
I definitely will be. So
yeah, I could be dead by then.
Good.
I feel so.
Nothing for certain. Death and taxes.
That's very, very true. Yitzhak said the BBB has the Trump tax cuts enshrined, which you pointed to, and that's another thing David Asman said. You have to enshrine the tax. If you don't pass the big beautiful bill, Trump's tax cuts are not enshrined. Taxes go up right before the midterms, which is what the Democrats want. They don't care as long as it gets them power, and that would really hurt the Republicans. If everybody's taxes go up, because they don't realize how much they're saving right now with Trump's tax cuts. Right. Are there any other bills in the hopper that would help, that you think would have a chance, that you see? I don't even know if there are any out there, any other bills, any other propositions that are coming up that could help bring down the deficit?
I don't think there is. As a matter of fact, our policy here at our little organization is strong legislation is the weak point of the United States government now. For example, Mike Lee just proposed a legislation, which is fine, that if they spend more money, then the senators get punished by 3% of their income or something. I mean, it's legislation that goes nowhere. And I think that's the problem with leadership. And this is where my frustration with Trump is, besides the tax cuts that he's maintaining, and the border wall, there's essential things that he did real well. But the sidebar stuff is just not meaningful legislation. In other words, like a bold stroke concept that's going to move the nation in the right direction. Another way to say it is just like there's no one thing that all Americans agree on, except for we probably all hate income and property taxes. That's probably the only thing we all agree on, or the majority of Americans. And that's why we're optimistic, because it is a bold stroke concept, and with the right leadership and the right voices, because the rumblings of some people I know, very few people, but the people I know, they're all, that's really the way we need to go eventually, but no one's posting up yet. And I think for the reason, because you pointed out, it's such a big industry, everyone's afraid they're going to be smeared and laughed at for coming up with the next great idea, which that happens. So
of course, it's all about getting reelected. So Yitzhak says, he said, because he's a lawyer, so he was laughing about all the lawyers being blamed. But he said what he thinks it should be, if we need to do something like that, it should be a flat 10% tax, period, no deductions, no other taxes, income only, no estate tax. What do you think?
Well,
that's a flat tax now instead of a national VAT.
See, ours is a national flat tax, which that's one of the things we'll just put a little star by that. But here's the problem. The flat tax would end up having to be 15 to 20%, or maybe even be 25%. So the 10% doesn't even get us there. As a matter of fact, 10% flat tax would put us probably another $1 trillion a year in debt. So that's the problem. It just doesn't work. It's a great idea because of its simplicity, but the numbers have to work. And see, that's the same thing with the fair tax. When you finally crunch the numbers on the fair tax, sounds like a great idea, but you're at 33% on purchases. And,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's probably the offsets are there, but the sticker shock is so great that you're not going to buy a new car. You're going to wait till the tires fall off. and you're not going to buy a new diamond ring or a Rolex because sticker shock. So what happens? The only people that really benefit from the fair tax are truly wealthy people because they have the disposable income to absorb that kind of tax.
Right.
Whereas now, if you're a family and you need a new refrigerator, you're going to probably have to get it repaired before you buy a new one. Which think what that does to your economy.
You know what? It's interesting though when you think about it. Well, to get to help the budget and get rid of all these other taxes, you'd have to pay 33%. So we're so used to paying tax on tax upon tax. Look at your phone bill, right? There's like this tax, that tax, that tax, that tax. And when you add it all up, it's a lot. But because they do it in little tiny bits, nobody pays attention to it, right? So you think about you get $1. If you earn $1, it's taxed by the state, it's taxed by the feds, right? If I spend it, it's taxed again. So my dollar that my value of my dollar is probably less than 50%. It's less than, it's probably worth about 35 cents once everybody's done taking their swipe out of it. But psychologically, people would rather have that than get rid of all the other taxes and pay 33% to buy a car.
Well, but I got to tell you, put one little fact on the 33%. That doesn't cover the budget. That still falls short of $1 trillion a year. So even with that system, we go another $1 trillion in debt. That's why when you look at our system, it's the only system because it's such a broad base and it's spread across every person, all segments of the economy, all enterprises. The rate is probably going to be 2%. And I verified that with Gork. Gork and I had a 10-hour session, which, by the way, 3 of the major search engines absolutely said our tax system is the tax system of choice with over 59 reasons why our tax system would be the tax system if you could start from scratch with a blank piece of paper. But Gork even said that we could probably at 2 and 2.5% would be the rate for everyone. And with what they call the compounding effect, the net aggregate, it would be 4%. So 4% you could see to citizens would be fantastic. And businesses would pay basically 4%. Everyone pays 4%.
It should be across the board. I don't care if you make 750 or you make 7 million. It should be everybody has to have skin in the game. That's another part of this. We have what is like 50% of the country doesn't even really pay income tax, right? And the bottom part gets money back for taxes that they don't pay. That has to stop. Everybody has to have skin in the game because not only listen, it's going to shock people at the lower end because they've been skating, right? They're just struggling. They're trying to make ends meet. They're trying to have a better life. I get it. We're all trying to have a better life. I understand that. However, you have no incentive to better yourself if we keep rewarding you for not contributing.
Well, actually, let's take the concept of what you mentioned, the poor people at a 4% sales tax rate. It's such no, actually for them, it'd only be a 2% tax rate. It's so nominal that I think psychologically poor people already pay sales tax with no complaints. Have you noticed that? So the one tax poor people have accepted is the pay-as-you-go tax. And think of the benefit of the pay-as-you-go taxes. There's no responsibility obligated to that. I don't have to worry about it. I pay as I go. If I don't buy something, I don't pay the tax. And so that's another feature of the now tax or the broad-based sales tax is you get to the point where it's the simplest. There's basically 5 features of the broad tax that, again, every economist agrees with, but for some reason, every economist doesn't want to get there. Go figure. And you'd think an economist would be the first person to go, yes, we need the tax system the simplest, least amount of rules, laws, regulations, least impact on society. You think the least impact on the economy, best for cash flow. Just a little sidebar. The now tax would put $5 trillion back in the pocket of citizens each year, which would be the equivalent of a 15% GDP increase.
That's fantastic. Everybody likes to get money back. Short and Salt says, what about getting rid of property taxes? Is that possible?
Absolutely. That's on the state level, that's where the broad-based tax comes in again. Because what you have to look at, first off, there's the ethical and immoral side of taxes. Property taxes are immoral, and that's why we had the Declaration of Independence to begin with. It was based around owning property. So the immorality of property taxes, as we all know, it's property you can never own your own property. Income taxes is your work product, which you can also see is very immoral because it's taken from you, your property. And then, and I call it the original amendment, the Declaration of Independence, because we all have to come to the realization that without money, income, and wealth, you do not have a First Amendment or a Second Amendment because they're irrelevant.
Sure.
Because without money, you can't do anything. And imagine a politician, a little bit of a joke here, not much of a joke, but a little one. Imagine a politician saying, yeah, give me 30, 40% of your money and you can bitch and complain all you want.
Yeah. I'll take 30 to 40% of everybody's money. Yitzhak says the big.
I'll give you another good joke. The guy that's robbing you, he goes to rob you. He goes, give me 30% of your money. And you kind of scratch your head and go, okay. And then they call the police, right? And then the government comes up to you, give me 30% of your money. Who do you call?
Right. Exactly. So Yitzhak says the big beautiful bill raises the debt ceiling to 10 trillion. Why?
I thought it was 5 trillion, but 10 trillion, it's horrible. As all the economists are now saying, it's like giving the kid runs up the credit card and then you turn around and give him a new credit limit on his credit card. Or it's like, and think of a bank did that. A bank gives you a line of credit based on what you need, but you have a $1 million line of credit on your business, and now you go and say, I need 10 million. Well, you need the 10 million for it. Oh, I just want to have safety or something, security. And ironically, Donald Trump being from the construction industry, that's how construction people roll. Because my family's construction. You're always robbing Peter to pay Paul off of loans and credit lines, always.
Mm-hmm.
So not shocked that he wants that line of credit as high as he can get it.
It's very true. Okay. Short and salt. Oh, this is off topic, but says, I know we're talking about tax stuff, but I would like to bring to your attention, my son was attacked in Texas by an illegal Haitian. He was struck on the back of his head and neck. Just bringing attention to be careful out there. Wow. Yeah. Let's rumble, Lisa. Is he okay? Yes, he's okay, but he was struck with a machete and they got the guy. Oh, that's terrible. That's awful. She said, I just feel the need to tell people it's getting really scary. I totally understand that. Bitcoin, the currency is general need for okay. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Here's another one. Yitzhak added to my idea of the dollar, and how many times it's taxed. He goes, and if you invest after tax money, the gains are taxed again. Right? It's ridiculous.
And they get a commission coming and going too. And then the broker gets a commission coming and going.
Exactly. Sal says, how can you make the numbers work when federal, state, and local governments don't seem to follow accounting practices like corporations have to?
Well, the good part of it, I've got the easy part of the job. Reforming taxes is easier than managing the government and how they spend money. But I do think that's where, if we eliminate an omnibus bills, after I do now tax, if I get now tax through, I'm going to start working on anti-omnibus legislation, one bill, one law, to completion. The order they come in, they get voted up and down. Then and eliminate the quid pro quo, fraud, waste, and abuse, and bribery from omnibus.
Yeah, that's a big part. This is why I think that you could go a long way in getting rid of the bribery if we had term limits, because a politician that can only serve 2 terms, in his first term he's worth something, in his second he's not, right? So it devalues, it disincentivizes the bribery.
Well, that's the anti-omnibus bill would do that in effect. It would eliminate the 17th Amendment because there'd be no incentive. You said it. There would be no incentive to stay in the Senate or the House because you're not going any more perks. It'd be cut and dry.
Right.
Matter of fact, they'd have to work 60, 70 hours a week just to keep up with each single bill that would hit the floor. Because as soon as one bill would hit the floor, they would not go into a committee. If it was sponsored correctly, it automatically go to the floor for a vote. So there'd be no more committees, no more politics. Because right now with the committee system, think about it. States aren't represented. Let's say right now, if you're a Democrat state, you're not represented in Congress or Senate because you can't get your bills passed through because you can't get into the committee. Whereas the anti-omnibus bill, as the order they come in, once they've been sponsored by, let's say, 20 congressmen, they have to go to the floor. I mean, talk about easy peasy, simple.
It does, yeah. It's so interconnected, and you got to do one thing to get to the next, because there's just, and that's the way they want it. They want it difficult to understand. Sue says that she's not feeling good about this. How about the government stop spending? Do that, and I may feel better about it.
Oh, absolutely. So that, as we mentioned earlier, pre-COVID, we were 5 trillion, and people were saying it's too much. Then magically, COVID, with all the stimulus money, went up to 7 trillion, and we're still at 7 trillion post-COVID. So it doesn't even make sense why we're at 7 trillion. And this is where my frustration with all politicians, Republican, Democrat, no one wants to tackle that, but it definitely added $2 trillion a year to our debt every year, even though it's, and that's what they will stimulate the economy. The offsets will make up the difference in the debt. That's what they always say. Just like with the big beautiful bill,
Right.
they're saying, well, the offsets are going to make it up, and we're going to start taking care of the debt. Not with the $1 trillion interest payment, because your offsets aren't nowhere near $1 trillion. And they said, well, we'll make it up. One genius said the other day, well, we'll make it up in tariffs. Well, if you do the simple kitchen table math, what's world trade? 10 trillion a year. Well, what would it have to be 100% tariff on everything to have enough money, to head back to start affecting the debt. So then they're saying the tariffs will have enough money that we can get rid of income taxes. And this is the kind of stuff they're saying in Washington, and you're just, I mean, a simpleton like myself, I'm scratching my head. I go, it take too much to figure that one out, but they're selling it. So
yeah. I think all in all, this entire topic is super hard for people to understand, because we know how we run our households. We know how we run our budgets, right? Like, if I don't have money coming in, I can't have money going out. Now, some people don't live that way, but the majority of Americans understand that very simple concept. When you get into the government, because as we just said, it's so deep, and it has to do, you've got lobbying, and you've got this and you've got that, and it all plays into that mix. So, for instance, if one of your kids was getting paid by their favorite shoe company in order to, lobby to get more shoes out of dad, of course, then you're gonna lose money. So, the whole thing, and there's been so many moving pieces, and so many taxes, and so many government agencies. It's very difficult. Speaking of government agencies, Yitzhak wants to know who has your ear in the administration. Anyone? Can you talk to anybody in the administration?
Well, I can tell you, my Senator Jim Justice, we're in a conversation, but it was more or less one of those conversations like, when someone else gets on board, we'll think about getting on board with you. And I've sent all my packages. I've sent detailed packages out to every executive in DC, and there's really no one. But it's really funny, on my Twitter responses, I have the Freedom Caucus. You name them out in your Twitter. You just put them in your string. And when I do one, it's like within 1 hour, I have 70, because you're allowed up to 70 in an X string. I'll have 70, 80 views. I mean, like that. Like, so I know, and this is every day I do one, because I do one almost every day. And every day I'll have the exact number of the exact number. So the Freedom Caucus guys are viewing every one of my ex tweets, but not one has reached out to me yet.
All right. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, please give a thumbs up to the video. Please subscribe. I appreciate all your subscribers over on Rumble. You guys are amazing. Wendy Bell Army has come through, and I just love you all so much. I wish I could respond to everybody. I can't, but I wish I could. But all of your kind words have been wonderful. Keep rumbling. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. And yes, my profile is Mary Walter Radio. The channel is Mary Walter Radio. But I didn't realize that those shouldn't be the same. So what are you going to do? And, it is what it is. And I think I did it with an old fashioned in my hand. So, there's that. So thank you appreciate you. Just a quick programming note. Next Tuesday, I'm 99% sure there will not be a podcast. Big goings on in town. I live in a town of like 3,500 people, and there was a coup for the mayor. And so it's a big deal. And so there's a meeting, and everybody's got to go. And it starts at 7:00. Right in the middle of the podcast. So I love you all, and I realize this is important, but I kind of have to do that. So
you need to do a live remote.
I don't think really anybody other than the 3,500 people in town really care. Like, and that includes children.
For us, so we can watch it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but see, so the people who cooed out the mayor, allegedly, according to the mayor, in the new election, scheduled the commissioners meeting for when he's on vacation. Now, if you did nothing wrong, why'd you do that? So we're trying to get enough people to show up to overflow the room so that they have to reschedule the meeting, and it'll be when the former mayor, can be there, who's the guy that everybody thought they were voting for.
The other side of politics.
Life in a small town. Honestly, this was like 3,500 people. And I said, like, this is like the election, like for a big school. Like, this is like a big high school election in this town. And we have drama.
I think it's like that in Washington, D.C. too, big high school.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. Have you thought about sending this stuff to like Steve Moore, E.J. Antoni, who do have the ear of people in the administration?
I have. I don't want to speak out of school, but I've gotten thumbs up from Steve Moore. So
I was going to say, I know Steve Moore. His son went to Villanova too, just like me. So
yeah, I think Steve's got other obligations he has to be working with.
Okay.
Working for.
Right. All right. So we're rumbling.
Oh, I did think I thought of one person I have the ear of. Carl Higbee.
Oh, good. Carl, good.
Carl and I did he did a super interview for me. Opened up one of his shows with me. Did a fantastic.
You know what? I think you posted that, didn't you?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he knocked it out of the park. So I do have one ear.
No, that's good. Somebody said they love me, but the only reason they can hear is because they're not working tomorrow. Here's the thing: not a lot of people do this at 7. So the like 3 to 6 is really booked. Like, the other times are very, very jammed. Right now, this isn't a jam time. So it's a little bit easier to do a podcast at this time of the day. So Scott Yitzhak says, just on Bloomberg today, there's an industry in investing in tax sale purchases. One is an average of a 10% return. Do you understand what that means?
I don't know, unless it's like the low income house investments where they can guarantee a return. Because I don't know if you've ever done that, but that's sounds like that type of opportunity.
All right. What gets implemented first, your tax plans or a convention of states? Gregory.
Well, I'm glad you kind of asked that, because I was working with part of the organization, not in any kind of important place, but just a member. And I did the trade shows and worked the crowds. The problem with the convention of states, you're 5 to 10 years out. There's just no other way to cut it. Because to get it, I think you have to have 35 states to make it even feasible. And then their platform is really wishy-washy. And I've reached out and talked to Mark Meckler one time at one of the conventions. And the only thing I expressed to him is one bold stroke can move the market. And I think if Convention of States would eliminate the 16th Amendment, income tax, I think they would hit it through the park. I think they hit a home run. But their platform is their planks, they call them. It's pretty broad, and it gets real muddy. It becomes just like the federal government. Too many things to have to sort through to get somewhere. So you can never get that critical mass. Because like right now, I think they're up to maybe 5 to 7 million followers. Whereas when Mark Meckler was with the Tea Party, I think they were up to like 30 million. Now, he was one of the founders of the Tea Party.
Right. Yeah. So Rob Dog says it's buying tax delinquent property and reselling it after small fixes.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he says. Okay.
Let's
see.
I had a feeling it had something to do with real estate.
Sal wants to know, how is it that members of Congress like Pelosi, AOC, et cetera, seem to become millionaires on a congressman's salary? Is it insider trading? Gee, I don't know. Do you think it's insider trading?
Yeah, but I think the root is the omnibus bills, because they create all those opportunities, sidebar opportunities that could fund a corporation that would normally never get funding through some sort of bill or legislation, and they're on the inside track Whereas if the omnibus bill, one law, it would be brought to light and you would see the scheme behind that piece of pork. And I think, again, I think the root to our whole failure of our system is the omnibus bill. They need to be eliminated. One bill, one law to completion.
What are your thoughts on the $1,000 accounts for babies?
It's silly. I mean, if you're going to do anything meaningful, put 50,000 in everyone's account that they can get when they're 65, and then they'll have 2 million in the bank and they can't touch it, you know. And if they die, they lose. I mean, if 1,000, why not 50,000? Right.
And if they're starting when I'm closer to death than birth, they can all go take a bath.
Right.
Sal said he wants to see a Mary, Wendy, Bell, and Lauren Conlon live cast if possible. Sal, I've been trying to get Lauren on. She's very busy. So, okay. Maybe Rumble will change the rules in the future like Facebook did, and then I can get the name the way that I want. Yeah, well, I screwed that up. Community sales for houses. Okay. Ron here says I should check out Crowds on Demand for our town's insurrection. There you go. Yeah, people don't pay a lot of attention to this stuff. Okay, so I just have to share a story. And by the way, please click the likes up on both Rumble and on YouTube. We need that. That would be fantastic. Remember, if you are over on Getter and you leave a comment, it will not come up on the screen for people to see, but I can read it. So please don't feel because you're over on Getter that you can't contribute to the show. I want to know that since I am now, today when I was running my errands, I became a cashier at Aldi and I wasn't paid. And I am now also in charge of scheduling when it comes to public works and things like that in my town, because they hand you so I go to the construction office, I go to Borough Hall and I talk to the woman in construction, super, super nice lady, very nice woman. And I said, I need to schedule an inspection for our air conditioning compressor. She goes, okay. She gets up and on the counter are these things of paper. She pulls one out and hands it to me and it's got a QR code on it. She goes, oh, you just do this and you can schedule your own appointment. They'll give you 3 choices. But if you have a problem figuring out, or there aren't one of the 3 choices doesn't work for you, you can call me and I'll schedule it for you. And I'm like, I'm standing right here.
Yeah.
So I have to take this home and go do it. And then if there's a problem, I can call you to schedule. So I've now apparently become employed by the Borough Hall as well, and no one's paying me. Is there some kind of tax break at Aldi? You know, you got to go and the lady yells at you to, please scan another item. Please scan it. I'm like, I'm going as fast as I can. Shut up, Martha. Right? Like it drives me crazy. And then at the end of it, they say, thank you for shopping Aldi. I'm like, it would be very nice if you would thank me for being a cashier and working for Aldi at the same time. So I just noticed more and more and more. So now, so I also have that page. I had to come to schedule an appointment. I had to create a portal with a username and a password between 8 and 50 characters. And I have a capital letter, a lowercase letter, a character, a number, blah, 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 blah. And then the next time in like a year or two, when I need another inspection, I'm going to have to go back to get the piece of paper because I'm not going to save that piece of paper with the QR code on it. I'm not going to know. So it seems as if I'm doing more and more work for which no one hired me and no one invites me to the Christmas party either. And no one pays me. So I'm doing uncompensated work. Is there some way that I can collect something for that?
I think with all
it's forced labor. It's actually forced labor when you come down to it.
Well, Aldi's is simple because you're scanning all your own stuff in. It's 2 for them, 1 for you. 2 for them.
You can't do that. That's the last thing I need, Steve. Great. So when I get arrested, when I'm like this, I'm sorry, officer. I'm like, well, Steve told me I could do it.
Well, you can do it with produce real easy. No, I don't half the time when I buy produce on a checkout thing, I'm not even sure if I pay for it. But I'm going like, I thought I paid for it. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
But I was like, I got to talk to Steve because I'm performing forced labor, which I thought was illegal. Number 1. And number 2, I'm not getting compensated. So is there some way to deduct the work from my taxes that I'm not getting paid on?
Well, that's why their prices are so cheap. because you're
I got
doing
news
all
for you.
the
My
work.
taxes are 20 grand for the
No,
construction
I was
office
talking
check.
about I was talking about the Aldi thing.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Aldi, but I'm just saying my taxes are not that cheap. And now I'm apparently in charge of scheduling as well.
Yeah, government's. The more you think about government, things like inspection stickers. See, Florida has no inspection stickers, and now West Virginia has a 2 to 3 year inspection sticker. So it's like, what's the sense of an inspection?
Oh
Obviously.
yeah, and then you pay and you pay for, they call them fees. They're not taxes, they're
Yeah.
fees. Like to get a driver's license, I got to pay a fee. To get the inspection center, to get your registration, there's a fee. There's this, there's that. So which goes back to the point in the beginning, is that we're so used to these little fees and little dings here, there, and everywhere else, that if you took all of those away, people would notice that it's getting cheaper, but they would flip that F out when you handed them a 35% VAT or whatever. They lose their minds if you did that.
Well, see, you just made a good point for now tax. Because now tax is like a toll road. It's actually not a tax, it's a fee. So actually you have no taxes at all.
It's not a toll.
It's a fee.
Right. Okay. Exactly. It's all. It's not a tax. It's just a fee. So you don't worry about it. You're fine.
No tax USA stands.
Yeah. Well, all these people are putting Ohio has no inspection, Kansas has no inspection. I see New Jersey at the DMV.
Right.
So it used to be terrible. You used to have to get there on the beginning of the month, because like the last day the line is out the door and down the street and around and everything like that, because you couldn't get your car inspected at a gas station. You got to go to the DMV, because if you go to the gas station, those public employees who are in the union lose their jobs.
Be like the Wizard of Oz, where you go in and they do everything. They shine you, they buffer, cut the hair.
You have to beep the horn. You got to beep the horn to make sure the horn works. You put it on the thing, and it does everything when you go to the inspection. They put the thing in the measuring thing in the tailpipe to measure the fumes coming out. They do everything except polish it and etc. And 9 times out of 10, you get the damn red sticker. You're like, oh, come on. What happened?
No, it sounds like Virginia's got one of those things where they put like 50 things on a board that you're supposed to pass. And it was like, and then the guy does 3 tests.
Oh no, this is like an assembly line, just like the Wizard of Oz. They have an assembly line. Your car goes on this thing automatically. It takes it down. It takes it down through the thing. And Gregory says, I figured that because you can't pump your own gas in New Jersey, that the state would make you perform your own inspection. That's the one thing. That is the one thing I have going for me. The one place that I go to buy something, and they don't make me like take a can. I'm waiting for like the grocery stores to tell me that they're just going to leave the pallets of food at the entrance, and each one of us just has to pick up like a case and take it to the shelf and just stock the shelf, while we're at it, and before we do our self-checkout. But that's the one thing we have in New Jersey, is I don't have to pump my own gas. It is the one perk that I have, and it is wonderful. And you can laugh at us all you want if you're from another state, but our gas is probably cheaper than yours. Not always, but probably cheaper than yours. And a little man comes and pumps it for me. That's it. And if it's not Costco, where they're not allowed to take tips, if it's really hot or it's raining or it's really cold or whatever, I give them $1. I tip them. I'm like, here you go, because it's nice. And if you're a regular, they'll wash your windows for you too, front and back.
That's good.
That's one thing I get.
We're in West Virginia. We're at 284 in our little town. 284 gallons.
Yeah, we're probably below that. We're probably at somewhere in the 280s. Yeah, something like that. And like I said, and there's no such thing as self-serve. And if you get out of your car to pump your own gas in New Jersey, they will yell at you to get back in. You got to get back in your car. It is illegal for you to pump gas.
Well, see, Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, they have the beer stores. I don't know if they still do it this way, where you have to buy beer from the beer distributor.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's so dumb. Yes, they still do it. You can't buy the beer. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Rob Dog wants to know, why can't you pump your own gas in New Jersey? It goes back to some law like in the 40s or something. I don't know. You can't. But we're the last state where that has only full service. But if it's the same price as in Pennsylvania, if you live along the river there, Pennsylvania will come into Jersey because they do it for you. And I'll tell you, it is safer. You can laugh at us all you want, but I love it because I can get gas especially when I was traveling back and forth between DC and New Jersey. I bought a hybrid, And I knew exactly if I filled up a full tank of gas on my way south at the last station on the 295 or off the turnpike, and just before the Delaware River Bridge, I would get over 600 miles to a tank of gas because it's a hybrid. I could get to my apartment in DC. I could get into DC. I could drive around a little bit, and I could get back to the same place without ever having to fill up my car ever. So it's wonderful, but it's safer, especially at night. I can get gas at 1 o'clock in the morning and I don't worry about it. I don't feel unsafe. There's no skimmers on the machine because there's always an attendant there. So I don't have to worry about somebody stealing my credit card, right? Like I don't have to worry about somebody carjacking me or somebody like taking my car or whatever while I'm out of my car and very vulnerable pumping gas. So I don't have to do it. So it's fantastic.
Well, I was in Miami getting gas, and the bathrooms are outside of the station. And I said, I got to use the restroom. And the Miami guy said, no, I think it's just better to pump your gas and go. That's how unsafe.
Well, see, that's another thing. That's another thing. Nobody leaves their car there while they go into the little store or whatever. And then everybody's stuck. Nobody can get gas because some idiot decided that he was going to go do other things after while he was pumping his, and then go do other things. And then everybody's stuck.
Yeah. Well, that's it. What's the big sheets, the big sheets? Do you have sheets up in New Jersey?
No, we don't. No, yeah, I know that they're down in Virginia. I know. And I know because when I was in DC, yeah, I've seen them. Yeah. I go to the truck stop. I go to the Pilot or the Flying J, and I was in there so often. They gave me a professional driver's card, like a truck driver. And if I wanted to, I could take a shower.
What did you ask David Webb? Did you get a CDL?
No, I did not. But I'm a professional driver according to the Pilot. Pilot Flying J, same thing. And and in Jersey you can't get a discount on gas. You can't do that in New Jersey. That you get your points, but you're not allowed to have that here. It's one thing you can't do. But
that's right. California is where you go to the gas station to get your CDL.
Oh, is that where it is? You go seriously?
No.
Oh. Rob Dog wants to know, why are you out at 1 a.m.? I lead a very exciting life, Rob Dog. That's all I'm going to say. All right. We got to wrap this up here. We're coming up to an hour. Again, thank you so much to everybody who's rumbling. I have no idea how many people rumbled. Like, I have no idea how many comments there were because I don't know how to read this thing. No clue. I know Wendy was like, oh, we got and she was saying how many people have rumbled. I have no idea. Is it 51? I don't know. Maybe somebody could tell me how to read this thing. How do you read this? I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. Steve, thank you so much for being my inaugural rumble, right? My inaugural live rumble. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
The next time you do, I'm afraid to call you on the radio, when you're doing your hosting. Next time I'll call in. I'm just figuring I'd be abusing my privileges.
Well, if you call in and we're talking about something else, yeah, you would be.
Oh, no.
That would derail everything.
No, I only talk about taxes. You know me.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. All right, everybody. So again, most likely there will not be a podcast next Tuesday again, because I got bigger fish to fry right now with the coup. All right. There's big goings on in a town of 1.1 square miles with 3,500 people. So thank you to everybody who showed up. Oh, you're amazing and wonderful, Steve. Thank you. Thank you for all the work you do. I'm usually on Chris Salcedo show on Newsmax every Monday, somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock. So you can catch me there. And also Monday and Tuesday next week, I am in on Breitbart Morning News on Sirius XM Patriot Channel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So you'll catch me on Monday and Tuesday next week.
Is that the Slater slot?
Slater slot. Yeah, I'm in for Mike Slater.
He's a great guy.
Well, you know what? It's so funny because when I used to go into the stations, everybody like, oh, so-and-so so great. I'm like, I never know because I'm only there when he's not. So I would never know. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I do appreciate you. And thank you so much, Steve, for joining me and being part of the show. Have a wonderful, blessed week, everybody, and stay safe. Bye.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.